If you're looking to ruin your draft these players, because we have 6 guys who are going to be disastrously bad for fantasy drafts in your fantasy team. So you do not want to miss it, because these 6 guys could tank any draft. And we start with the 4th overall pick from last year's draft, Marvin Harrison. And Ty, you're going to have to convince me a little bit that Marvin Harrison is a bad pick. I know his ADP is way up from where he finished last year, but I need you to convince me that Marvin Harrison is a disastrously bad pick.
Yeah, disastrously bad, not because he doesn't take the step forward or we don't think that he's a good player at all, but it's just the fact of where he goes in drafts right now and the capital that you have to sink into him, with the downside that he does have, unfortunately, that does need to be talked about, right? Marvin Harrison Jr. is a player that wins with nuance in his route running. He's not a speed guy. And the way that he was used last year, he needed to win with speed more times than not, right? When you look at his short and intermediate routes where he can use his release packages and his route running ability, that accounted for 41% of his routes, and his average win rate, according to Fantasy Points, 28.6. Really flipping good. Really good. But on his downfield routes, your corners and your posts, your goes, and I even threw in the crosser routes, that accounted for 58% of his routes, and his average win rate on those, 13%. You cut his win rate in half because you have him on the outside in the X role, having to win with speed on vertical routes. On top of that, this dude just doesn't get anything designed or any easy touches going his way. There's no screens. There's nothing in the flat for him. Like everything is downfield in some capacity. We talked about it before. You either need some more easy touches or you need Arizona to get him out of this sacrificial lamb role of being the X receiver where he's almost exclusively forced to work with speed or needing to win with speed in order to see at least the big step forward to being a top 15 type receiver. And with the Trey McBride in this offense as well, I'm just worried we'll get both of those things where he's not going to get more easy touches and he will continue to be that sacrificial lamb on the outside where he just has to win with speed and it's just not his game. And I want to maybe lessen the blow and say that like year 2 Marvin Harrison Jr. should develop and improve, so it shouldn't be as bad as year 1. But I'm just not sure it's wide receiver 14, top 15 wide receiver good at the moment. And we just look at other players in this tier, or I call it a tier at least, but just this range of players. And I just find myself passing on Marv more times than not because I'm looking at Terry McLaurin, Rashee Rice, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. And a couple picks after those guys, even Chase Brown and Devontae Adams. So it's just kind of unfortunate that Marvin Harrison Jr.'s ADP is right here. It's something that I don't agree with. But if he was closer to 20 than he was to 10, I think it's a completely different conversation. And you can call that, we're nitpicking or we're separating hairs at that point. But to me, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a fine player, but we're expecting the bounce back, or we're expecting that last year was a fluke instead of it actually kind of being a slow burn and a development that takes a couple years for him to get going.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. And that's where I do understand is when we're looking at tiers, more often than not, if we have a big tier, the guys at the front of that tier, we're going to feel like aren't as great of picks as the guy at the end of that tier. Devontae Adams for me, amazing pick. You know why? Because instead of going as wide receiver 14, he goes as the wide receiver 19. Kyren Williams, much better pick for me because he's going, his ADP is 33 overall compared to Marv up at 25. So that's where it really comes down to. We talked about with Rome Odunze too. You look at Rome Odunze right now, his breakout, his jump forward is not baked into his ADP at all. You're taking him as the wide receiver 36. Marv's is. Like for Marv to truly beat ADP, it's not just a jump forward. I mean, it is a dramatic shift in the way that they use him. It is challenging Trey McBride for the number 1 pass catcher. And like you can say, oh, well, Trey McBride had 111 receptions last year, remember? Right? It's not like these are huge numbers he's going to have to put up to improve on that. So I do agree with that. Disastrously bad feels harsh, but at the same time, I do understand that if Marv doesn't make that jump, it could be rough. Whereas Garrett Wilson, Tyreek Hill, Terry McLaurin, Rashee Rice, even in more limited fashion, we've seen the jump before. So, right, we're not doing the mental gymnastics to get him up here. So I do understand it from that perspective for sure.
Right. Like Marvin Harrison could finish anywhere between 20 and 25. And on a relative scale, that's a successful season, especially how year one went. But again, because you're taking them inside the top 15, it'll feel disappointing. And probably along the way, there is going to be some really good performances and really bad ones where you're like, man, I spent an early third on that when I could have taken maybe a guy like Devontae Adams, 6 picks, according to ADP, later. That was a consistent top 20 guy, or heck, even we talk about some like Tetaroa McMillan, Travis Hunter, guys that go like a full round later that also finish in that range.
Definitely. And I do want to say his rookie season wasn't bad. I mean, he had 60 receptions, 880 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Like, if you don't have Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas and the Jamar Chases, that's a good rookie season. That's what we're more accustomed to. We've just seen some unreal rookie seasons lately that it feels like this was awful from Marv. So we got to put in perspective that way. But guys, we talked about the best picks on Tuesday. Me and Lucas, unfortunately, Ty couldn't be on that show. It was an amazing show, the best show, the greatest show you've ever seen.
Well, I wonder why.
Well, I'm not saying, but
maybe somebody wasn't on it. I don't know.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying. But we're putting out content like that all season long, 2 videos a week through July, and then we bump it up to 3 videos a week in August. So make sure you subscribe, you turn on those notifications, you join the fellowship. We're over 3,200 strong right now. Maybe we can get up in that 4,000 range by the time we drop the draft guide July 1st. Hey. I might be willing to give out some free draft guides if we get up there. So I'm not against that, but I'll quit blabbing and we'll move on to our next guy. And it's Omarion Hampton. And I struggled with this because I didn't want to just pick on some rookies. But for me, my issue with Omarion Hampton is, again, like you said with Marv, it's the guys that go around him, especially the running backs. Kyron, Brees, James Cook ahead of him. I understand Brees, James Cook have their concerns, but we're also talking about guys who finished top 5 at their position before, right? So you have that side of it going after him. Joe Mixon, phenomenal last season before the last 3 weeks of the year. Chuba Hubbard, again, not much challenging him. Kenneth Walker, Alvin Kamara go behind him. RJ Harvey's there. But I think you can almost make a similar case for him as Omarion Hampton. However, Omarion Hampton has Najee Harris there. And I know people are going to say, but the contract's really not that much. I understand that. But if Najee Harris has been one thing through his career, it is a volume machine and grinder, right? He's not going to be flashy, but he's a guy that I can give him the rock 300 times, and he's going to hold up throughout the year. And in a Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman offense where they want to establish the run, if you don't think they're going to use Najee Harris in a role like that, I'm sorry, but they are. And Greg Roman's done this before, right? Whether you want to say it was Harbaugh or Roman, in 2020, they took J.K. Dobbins as a second-round pick. And J.K. Dobbins looked good on the field. Mark Ingram was out there averaging 4.2 yards per carry. And Dobbins didn't see any action until Mark Ingram got hurt. Now, I understand. Mark Ingram was coming off a season where he averaged 5 yards per carry. He's a better running back probably than Najee is right now. Omarion Hampton, top 25 pick, whereas, Dobbins is. So I understand there's nuances to it. But J.K. Dobbins only had 25 carries through the first 6 weeks. So that's my worry with Hampton as a top 15 guy, is there's just no guarantee he gets volume early. Later half of the season, could he turn into a league winner? Absolutely. And if it's good enough, maybe it makes me eat my words. But my worry is he's just not going to get going until late enough. It's too late in the season where you're feeling like either my team's out of it because my RB2 just didn't pan out, or, it's just hurting enough that in your redraft leagues at home, you're like, I got to move off this guy.
Yeah, Omarion Hampton is an interesting one because there will be people that justify the price tag because they'll say, yeah, I know that the split's going to happen at the beginning of the year, but you're banking then on the second half of the year kind of emergence as the 1A / lead back guy in the backfield. And I think that's what we're all kind of anticipating. I don't think that's like a secret. I don't think that is kind of hidden knowledge from anybody. That's very much kind of consensus of how this backfield should work. And especially with Greg Roman and his history. But it's another price tag argument where you're paying top 15 capital for a guy going in the late fourth, where you're taking him at I don't want to say the ceiling, but you're taking him pretty much where he's going to finish by year's end, because maybe there's a chance that he gets the backfield right away because of how talented he is, right? Like that's the argument there. Versus another rookie that goes much later than him in Travion Henderson, who's a running back 21, going at the beginning of the 6th round. So a full round and a half later, in a very similar argument where he's going to be split in the backfield with Ramondre Stevenson, but by the season's end, he's going to likely take over that lead back role. And that running back 21 price tag is much more palatable then, and he can definitely outproduce that in the second half of the season. So it's not that we don't think that Omarion Hampton isn't going to be a good player, won't live up to that kind of running back or that top 20 title, I'll call it. It's just the fact that like there's better values that can give you similar production later. And I don't want to just say it's just Travion Henderson, but like that's really like, if you want the rookie second half boost, or if you want the second half of the year kind of upgrade, end of the 4th round is a little too early to do that, in my opinion.
Definitely. I mean, like Caleb Johnson, obviously going to be on a much worse team if Mason Rudolph's the quarterback, but running back 26. So, could be an interesting situation with Jalen Warren there. Like you said, it's more than just the running backs doing that. George Kittle, Jalen Hurts right around him. Devonta Smith, Jameson Williams, Cortland Sutton. You got Jalen Waddle, Rome Odunze, George Addison going a little bit behind him. So like, that's all, a little interesting there. Of like, I just don't know if I can quite stomach it. Ty, you're getting our 3rd position in 3 players. You're going with Sam Laporta here, and I don't know. I don't know if I disagree with you. I'd be interested to see the comments on this one.
Yeah,
because I feel like the comments are either going to be all with you, or they're going to be all against you here. And I'm interested to see which way people go on this.
Well, and because you set it up like that, there's actually going to be 0 comments on it, because
yes,
that's just how it works out. But consider this like the TJ Hawkinson conversation continued here, because you guys talked about TJ Hawkinson being one of the better picks in drafts, and I completely agree with it. Because here's the flip side of this, right? When you're talking about a guy like Sam Laporta, who was a very touchdown dependent play every week last year, which isn't a bad thing. You kind of need that for tight ends, but we need to just kind of put that into perspective then when we're talking about the tight end 4 in drafts. Like Sam Laporta in games without a touchdown, he averaged 6.3 half PPR points per game. In games with a touchdown, he averaged 13.6, double. So touchdown dependent. And again, not a bad thing for a tight end, but for the tight end 4 price tag, you do need some volume along the way. And that's not what he got. And Laporta goes in the 5th round. The next tight end, TJ Hawkinson, the tight end 5, goes 2 rounds after him. Jonnu Smith and Travis Kelce, the tight end 6 and tight end 7, go 3 rounds after. And this is primarily a similar theme to the first 2 guys that we talked about. This is just a matter of team building and draft strategy, right? He goes closer to the tight end 3, George Kittle, who outscored him by 4 points per game than he does to the tight end 6, Jonnu Smith, who scored 1 more point per game than him. So can Sam Laporta end the season as the tight end 4? Totally. It is totally within the realm of possibility. We've seen him finish as the tight end 1 overall in points per game. But tight end 4 does not mean that he's an advantage at the position, or at least we don't think he's going to outscore the other tight ends by a wide enough margin to justify this price tag going that much ahead of the other guys. And you add in the other factors of a new play caller, right? With Ben Johnson out the door, year 4 of Jameson Williams, which was a contributing factor to what Sam Laporta dealt with last year, it's a pretty easy pass for me. And I know in this range of players, it's not sexy. It's pretty gross. We're talking about number 2 options, or we're talking about number 2 pass catchers. We're talking about veteran running backs. But I'm still opting to go with the Deebo Samuels, the Juwan Jennings, the Jerry Judys, even the Ricky Pearsalls of the world over Sam Laporta, because I know of what value I can get in tight ends later. I don't need to force a high pick on a tight end right here with Sam Laporta.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about like even just comparing Laporta to Travis Kelce this year, which let's not forget, like Travis Kelce had a down year for Travis Kelce. He had 97 receptions last year. So it's not like the dude's completely fallen off, but the difference in players around him. If you're watching on YouTube, you see on the screen, David Montgomery's there, James Conner. Those are guys, you know, who are going to be competing to be a top 20, top 15 running back. Like they're going to be in that conversation. Running backs going in the Travis Kelce range, Cam Scattaboo, Jordan Mason, Tyrone Tracy, like them, but they're not competing with Connor and Montgomery. Michael Pittman, Trey Harris, Jaden Higgins compared to Deebo, Jerry Jeudy, Juwan Jennings. Like, say what you want about them. Much safer group earlier versus later. And it's just the difference in tight end between Laporta and Kelce and Jonnu and even Evan Ingram later on, like you said, it's just not going to be enough. We saw that last year. That was the same conversation we had about Laporta last year was he is not up in this range. This is not necessarily where he belongs, but we're taking him there. He hasn't hit 1,000 receiving yards. If I'm taking him that high, I want to see 1,000 receiving yards this season from Laporta. And with Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, David Montgomery, no Ben Johnson, I just don't know if we see that. And if we don't see that, it's going to feel like a bad pick, even though, you know, as far as like he might finish as a tight end 4. So I think he put it perfectly. We're going to move on to 3 more players. We got 2 wide receivers and a running back. But first, we're going to hear from our friends at Underdog Fantasy.
Today's podcast episode is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Now, we love Underdog. It is the easiest place to play best ball formats, and they even have their own form of player props called Pick'em. You can make up to 20 times your money on a single night by correlating props together. 2 picks will triple your money, 3 will 6 times it, 4 will 10 times it, and 5 plays that all hit will multiply your entry by 20. You can even place insurance on your picks too, so if only 4 of your 5 props hit, you still get 10 times your entry. And if you use our code FELLAS when signing up, Underdog is going to double your first deposit up to $100.
We are back, and we got Xavier Worthy is who we're going to start with. We've gone through Marvin Harrison, Omarion Hampton, and Sam Laporta, a year 1, a year 2, and a year 3 player. And now we're on Worthy. And if you're noticing the pattern, these are young players. And really what it's coming down to is we're baking into their ADP already that they're going to take a jump. We don't necessarily think that they're going to outperform the jump that we've already baked into their ADP. That's what it comes down to, right? That's what we're saying with these guys. We're not saying I think Worthy and Harrison are going to be bad. I think Marvin Harrison is going to be a top 10 wide receiver in the league, in the next couple of years. I just don't necessarily think it's going to be next year based off what we saw his rookie season. Xavier Worthy, I think he can be great for the Chiefs. I just don't think it's going to be good enough where I think he'd be the highest behind T. Higgins, highest wide receiver 2 on the board. Behind Devontae Adams and T. Higgins, he'd be the 3rd highest wide receiver 2 on a team on the board. I just don't necessarily see that happening. And you know what? He's very fun to watch, but we can't pretend the end of his season was the same as Rashee Rice's teammate or Amon-Ra St. Brown. Because I think we have in our heads, oh, he finished well. That's what's going to show us that he's going to take that step forward. He had a great 3-game stretch, but that's it. He's almost the inverse of Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, fantastic season, bad 3-game stretch to end the year. We're pushing Joe Mixon down the boards. Xavier Worthy, whole season, great 3-game stretch, push him way up the boards. Why? Because he's fun. He's attached back from Mahomes. But in that stretch from weeks 15 to 17, he was the wide receiver 10 and half PPR points per game. Awesome. But he only had 9 yards per reception, and he was wide receiver 23 in receiving yards, averaging just 64 receiving yards per game. He had less receiving yards in that stretch than Olamide Zaccheaus. How can I write someone's name down and then still mispronounce it, even though I've talked to you about it before? Whatever. Well, whatever. But right, it's not like he exactly lit it up. It was all on receptions, all on, he had 2 touchdowns during that time. You know who gets a lot of receptions and can score touchdowns? His teammate, Rashee Rice. His other teammate, Travis Kelce. Right, or Xavier Worthy last year had a yards per reception at 10.8. Rashee Rice is 11.9 for his career. Travis Kelce last year, 10.1. I'm sorry, but we're not going to have 3 Chiefs necessarily running in the same part of the field the entire season. So my worry is, on top of, maybe just less targets, his role is going to change in this offense. That we're going to have to see him kind of adapt with Rashee Rice coming back. But going back to those stretches, right? The reason I said he's not Rashee Rice and Amon-Ra, Rice's stretch as the top 10 wide receiver went from week 12 to 17. Amon-Ra's was 13 to 18. Worthy in week 12 through 17 was wide receiver 28 with 3 games outside the top 40. So we just haven't seen sustained production, or at least enough for me, that I'm willing to move him up, bake in a jump into his ADP with the wide receiver 1 coming back from an injury and his tight end still there. So it's just, there's too much going on outside of him that I don't understand why we're pushing him up the board so much.
I'll be completely honest. It feels like we're anticipating this Kansas City passing offense to figure out the deep ball, and it's going to be Xavier Worthy that is going to get the majority of those, which, not saying that it won't be. I mean, Xavier Worthy pretty much seems like he's going to be locked into being that kind of guy. I mean, that's what they tried to do at the beginning of the year, and they eventually went away from it because it just didn't work. And then by season's end, what you saw was a ton of Xavier Worthy out routes to the sideline and a lot of flats and crossers underneath that just got him in space with the ball. Those can still happen. The frequency of those will likely go down. You talk about an offensive line that was upgraded, whether you think so or not, they upgraded. And maybe the rushing attack stays a little more healthy this year. Isaiah Pacheco doesn't get hurt. Whatever it may be, there's plenty of reason for Xavier Worthy to not hit this price tag. Sure, he can give you weeks where he can be maybe a top 15 guy. We're not saying that's not going to happen. We're fully anticipating that happening. But then when you look at the range of players and you look at the price tag, you got to sink into them. It's going to be tough to swallow, because if he doesn't crack the top 20, you're going to be disappointed, because that's how early he's going in drafts at this point.
Yeah. I mean, if you watched our top 39 wide receiver ranking video last week, he was the number 1 wide receiver in the D tier. The D tier is 19 wide receivers big, right? So for us, and I truly believe this, I think his range is between the wide receiver 21 and the wide receiver almost 40, right? So that's the issue when you're taking Xavier Worthy right now, is if he ends up at the bottom of this tier, you're really hurting, right? And even if he is wide receiver 21, if it's not a best ball league, it feels like his variance week to week is going to be huge boomer bust based on, for me, which feels like touchdowns. So that's a big worry. But Ty, you wanted to climb down the board for this one. You're reaching way. I did this yesterday with Tyjae Spears. You're doing something similar here with another rookie. The second rookie we're talking about, Bhayshul Tuten, excuse me. I can't pronounce any. I don't even know why they let me say names, but Bhayshul Tuten here, who's going as the running back 37. I'm not going to talk about the guys around him, because I know that's one of the reasons you have an issue with his current ADP. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't understand this one. I'll just keep it 100. I don't understand it, and I don't like it. That's probably the most important part of this. But he's currently the first running back on the Jaguars that's being taken in drafts right now. Travis Etienne, his teammate, goes 2 picks after him at the running back 38. And Tank Bigsby goes in the middle of the 13th as a running back 47. We're drafting Bhayshul Tuten to be the lead guy right out of the gate. And this is partially based on everything that we've heard so far in the offseason. Ever since he's gotten to Jacksonville, is that he hasn't really stood out. There was a whole what's felt like a day or two of Twitterverse just going at him for fumbling a ball on day one. Everyone's like, it's over. His career's over. Partially memes, but there is some merit behind that the fumbling issues were a thing in college. And if he doesn't fix it here, it's going to be a struggle for him to get on the field. And I've said before, I'm on record saying this, I think it's Etienne that's going to be the lead back, at least to start the season. And we'll see where the team goes and how they perform. He may be traded at that point. But again, Etienne is the guy right out of the gate. He was the clear guy in the backfield last year before his hamstring injury that definitely lingered the rest of the year when you just look at his performances. And we've seen Etienne have success before. We're just 1 year removed from a running back 6 finish in points per game. He also had 58 receptions that year. Okay, keep that in mind. The Tank Bigsby component of this, he led the team in yards per carry, missed tackles forced. It was top 3 in the league in yards after contact per attempt. So it leads me to this question. Why is Tuten still going ahead of those guys in drafts? And there's only one answer. It's because people think that Liam Cohen got his new Bucky Irving. Everyone's thinking it's the rookie in the 4th round that they're going to get on the field somehow, some way, and he's going to be absolute dynamite. Newsflash, Bucky Irving and Bhayshul Tuten are not remotely close to being the same type of player, okay? I want to wrap this up by doing a name game. Okay, maybe I'll put the cherry on top and then we can do the name game with this. If Travis Etienne is going to get the passing work, which Bhayshul Tuten, I'll go take a look at his college stats. He didn't get much of that at Virginia Tech. So if Etienne's going to get the passing work, and Tank Bigsby was the most efficient guy on the ground, with Etienne, who isn't the most efficient guy but can handle a workload, where is the room for Bhayshul Tuten? Okay, that's the question I pose. But name game, and we're just going to rattle this off, okay? Bhayshul Tuten or our guy Kyle Williams. It goes 4 picks after him.
Guy with Kyle Williams.
Kyle Williams. Javonte Williams right after that. Javonte. Justin Herbert. Herbo. Drake May, Lucas's guy from last episode.
Drake May.
Okay? Yeah. A couple receivers. Christian Kirk.
This one you could get a little close, but I still think the right answer is Kirk.
I think it is too. Jack Besh.
I gotta go Besh. If we're talking rookie upside, it's definitely Besh.
Ramondre Stevenson. This is where it gets gross, but Ramondre Stevenson.
Guaranteed workload with Ramondre, so I'm gonna go Ramondre.
Last 3. Jordan Love.
I'm going Love.
David Njoku.
Easily Njoku. Njoku's so
easily. And your guy, Tyjae Spears.
I'm going Spears.
Again, we are pushing Bhayshul Tuten too far up the board because we just draw the line between rookie 4th round Liam Cohen, Bucky Irving.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. And that's not how it will play out this year in Jacksonville.
For sure. And I think that's the big thing too of it's still a day 3 pick. Things had to go right for Bucky last season to get into the position.
Yes.
He didn't have two. He had just one guy ahead of him. Now, I mean, Tuten's got 2 players ahead of him right now on the depth chart. Like you said, I mean, if we're already hearing fumbling issues, the issue, why it's bigger deal for like Tuten than if it was, say, Etienne or Bigsby is draft capital. Your 4th, 5th, 6th round pick, 7th round pick, you just have a shorter leash than everybody else. That's just the way the NFL works. So if there's something like that comes up, right? If he fumbles game 1, it could be over for Tuten. Like his entire career could be over, right? They could just throw him on the bench and say you don't see the field. Like that's how short the leash is. So for a guy like Bucky to do that, even Puka Nacua a couple of years ago, it just takes a lot to go right, and you have to hit on the first shot. Rarely do guys not hit, and especially in their rookie season, We're not even saying Tuten couldn't crack this starting lineup down the road, couldn't be the Jags running back one overall or running back one. It just feels like a very big long shot that is going to happen year one right away. And obviously, I understand he is the running back 37. It doesn't have to happen right away. If it is just like the last six weeks, it'd still be great. But he's running back 3 on the depth chart. He's got to beat out 2 guys, and I just don't see that happening year one for a guy who really his only thing is hitting home runs. But yeah, we'll move on to our last player. It's Ricky Persall, currently the running back 41 on the board, pick 73. And for me, the issue I have is I like Slick Rick, right? I hope nothing but the best for Ricky. I think a year, 2 years down the road, he's the wide receiver 1 in San Francisco. But we got to be honest about last year. Obviously, we talked about it on our top 39 wide receivers video. Dude got shot. I mean, he missed everything last year to start the season. So I know you get a full year in. He was an early pick, but we can't pretend Juwan Jennings was just a fluke either. In the 6 games, Persall, Juwan Jennings, and George Kittle were on the field. Ricky averaged 9.6 fantasy points per game, 17.6 first read target share. Kittle averaged 14.2 fantasy points per game, 19.8 first read target share. And Juwan Jennings, 13.5 fantasy points per game, 31.3 first read target share. You know what that means? That means that Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan trust Juwan Jennings. And Jennings produced when he was called upon last year, and that's not going to go away. And now you add in a healthy Christian McCaffrey. You add in Brandon Ayuk, who's slowly going to continue to ramp up throughout the season. You can say, they don't like Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is not going to be healthy. Brandon Ayuk is getting paid a lot of money. Very few teams like to pay a guy that much money and not use him and not try to get him involved in this offense. And you want to know why you haven't heard of Juwan Jennings before? Really this season? Because he was the wide receiver 3 on San Francisco. And when you have Christian McCaffrey and you have 2 other wide receivers and George Kittle, it's very hard to produce as a wide receiver 3. And if that's the role that Ricky Persall falls into, he's going to feel almost irrelevant for fantasy. And it's a bummer, but I think he needs one more season.
Yeah, one more season, I think, would be my... What's the word? That would be my way to go about it as well. Not saying that Ricky Persall won't produce, because I think now the opportunity is there that when they go in 3 wide receiver sets, that Ricky is going to be on the field. And his thing was route running. Coming out of Florida was route running. So he will be able to be open. But this is just a matter of, of just kind of hierarchy, of just having other priority and other mouths to feed in this offense, where everything will go through McCaffrey first. Then you're kind of fighting between Kittle, which I think most people would say is probably going to be the first pass catching guy on the list. Then it's going to be Juwan. Then maybe Ricky until Ayuk gets back, because then when Ayuk gets back, that gets reshuffled again. And Ricky Persall could easily be the 4th option at that point. And that's not to say that, again, that he won't have performances. But I think what we're saying is that we need to see a year of this. And if we need to see a year of this from Ricky Persall, when he's the wide receiver 41 going at pick 73, what we're saying is you're not missing out on Ricky Persall this year. If you pass on Ricky Persall, it's not like it's going to come back to bite you. Sure, he can finish as a top 36 guy, but I seriously doubt he's going to finish as a top 25 guy. So the value that you're getting there, I don't think it needs to be pushed up anymore. I think if you're going to be targeting San Francisco pass catchers, George Kittle is definitely the one to target. I've been taking a ton of Juwan Jennings, even though everyone likes to say attack ambiguity. Juwan Jennings is the first wide receiver to go off the board. I'm still taking Juwan Jennings, but then Brandon Ayuk going 5 spots behind him in terms of wide receivers. I'm still kind of opting to go Brandon Ayuk because I know what I get with Ayuk in this offense. So again, not that Ricky Persall is a bad player. We love Slick Rick. We hope the best, because the dude overcame a lot last year. Just probably need to see a season of it first before ultimately saying that like he's the best value of the San Francisco wide receivers right now.
Yeah, it's just everything needs to go perfect. Brock Purdy needs to be incredibly efficient. The offense needs to be incredibly efficient just for them to have a high producing wide receiver too, in this offense as well. So it's just so much things combined. And like, I just don't see the upside. I just think that, yeah, it could go south quick if he doesn't lock himself into really the wide receiver one role in this offense. Well, that's all for us today. We will be back next week. Oh, and what are we talking about next week? We are talking about some great things. Oh, it is June next week. That's insane. Talk about crazy. It is June next week, and we have nothing on the schedule. We will have something on the schedule for you. And Ty is sitting here muted. Oh my goodness.
Could this ending be any more disastrous?
It's just
Like,
brutal.
It's like these 6 picks, just absolute disasters.
Absolute disaster. So that's what we'll leave it at. And well, if you want to follow us on the socials, I'm at Camel FFF on the X. Tyler is at Tyler_Plath. FFL is on Twitter. The FFL is on Instagram. Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok, and Fantasy Football Fellas Shorts on YouTube if you want our short form over there. But we will see you next week, so make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications so you don't miss it. Deuces.